So we are here this morning with a
With
really, really special guest.
amazing story.
Really,
Amazing,
really
amazing.
special guest. We are going to talk about the journey of a kidney transplant. So we are here this morning with a
With
really, really special guest.
amazing story.
Really,
Amazing,
really
amazing.
special guest. We are going to talk about the journey of a kidney transplant.
Oh, and this is amazing to see what people
Yes.
or a person actually lives and goes through every single day
Right.
just to hopes to survive.
So we have a lot of questions, but we first want to introduce Kim Campise.
Kim, thank you. Thank you.
Did I
for
say your
visiting
last
with
name
us.
right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. So just so everybody knows, Kim is our neighbor
Yep.
and
Became a fast friend.
and a
Fellow golf carter?
Yeah, fellow golf cart lover. And so Kim, tell us about your family dynamic. You have 3 kids.
I do. We do.
Okay.
We have twins, a boy and a girl that are 2, and we have an 8-year-old Oliver who is has Down syndrome.
Okay.
All
And-
cuties.
And
Oof.
your wife is Andrea. Am I saying?
Andrea.
Okay. I hear Dre more than I hear. Okay.
Yeah, trying to remember get the name right.
And so, in the middle of living this busy, amazing life, you moved out here to
Parent.
DeSoro, living the dream, got your cute little Oliver. And so, let's talk about how you first discovered that you were having issues.
It was like a routine doctor appointment, and they, test your urine or whatever, and I had a little bit of foam in my urine, so it, to them, it flagged that I had high protein in my urine, so they were like, okay, I think we might need to send you to a kidney doctor, so that's kind of how it went down, and that was about 2007, and they did a biopsy then, and sent it off to UCLA, so it came back saying that I had like IgA nephropathy, so it was like an immune disorder for my kidney.
Wow.
Interesting.
At the time, I didn't really know much about it. They didn't really say much about it. They were just kind of watching me. So I just went on with life like normal,
Right.
Yeah.
But so we just had a podcast about aging gracefully, and one of the things we talked about was routine checkups.
Routine
Yeah.
checkups. Big
And
deal.
so that's
Yep.
a huge, huge thing. So that is what kind of started the journey for you.
So
Yeah,
perfect
absolutely.
testimony what that looks like
Right.
because people need to get checked out, get your health
Yeah.
checked.
And so how long before they actually discovered that you had a
Well,
bigger issue?
so like 2007, I think my kidney function was about 40%.
Oh my goodness, 40%.
Yeah, and usually they want you like above 60%. Most normal people have it way above 60, but above 60 is pretty normal.
Okay.
And it kind of, I was a heavy drinker then, and had a lot of fun and did a lot of things.
Right.
Right.
And it slowly went down, and when it went to like 20%, that's when they named me on some transplant lists. So you have to, like 20%'s like run of the mill. They put you on a transplant list. I was on 2. One was Sutter in San Francisco, and one was UC Davis in Sacramento.
Did you feel something different?
No,
I mean-
not in the beginning. I didn't. I just noticed that my urine had a lot of foam in it. It was weird.
Interesting.
Wow.
yeah.
That is and
Indications, right?
right. And so it's funny sometimes the signs that you overlook because I mean,
Life moves on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you have really side effects of any sort other than that at the first.
So once you're down to 20%, and you get on a donor list, so are you going through other treatment at that time? How does that
not.
work?
No, like I said, I was a heavy drinker for a lot of years. I got sober, and I've been for about 6 years now.
Awesome.
So after that, what I did was, I'm a paramedic, or I was at that point, and so I did a lot of like healthy routine. I went plant-based
Oh, wow.
dieting, no meat at all, because animal protein's really hard on your kidney. So I went plant-based, and I just exercised to kind of keep myself at like a level where I wouldn't need dialysis.
Okay.
And that lasted a good probably, I don't know, I want to say like maybe 5 years or longer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went a long
for
time.
you.
I went a long time without having to be on medication, without having to get dialysis. I went quite a bit.
And that's a big change in itself. I mean, when you go from being a meat eater and like
Right.
that's everywhere, and then it you had to learn a whole new way of
Right turn.
Right.
right of being.
Hmm. Yeah.
So 5 years, you are able to manage this. Then what?
Well, it kind of hit when we moved out here. So we moved out here in 2020. Our house was done being built, and so I think my function was low, like maybe 12, maybe 10. We moved out here. We were still going through, moving in and things like that. I think we were here maybe a year, and my percentage was 7% kidney function at that point. Um, I still didn't feel real sick, but my potassium levels started to rise, even though, especially plant based because I'm eating a lot of salads and spinach
Salads,
Right.
and
yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that, beans. So my potassium levels rose. I had to be on a potassium blocker for quite some time, and it still was real kind of high. So the doctors decided, hey, it's time to make a decision, and I got the decision to choose whether I wanted to do hemodialysis, to do your blood and or peritoneal dialysis, and I chose that. Um, so yeah, I went into surgery like right before my birthday in April of 2021.
Wow.
Hmm.
So you when we've learned of your story and gotten to know you better, and the thing that resonated with me about you is you've just always been life goes on. Like you
Right.
you
Yeah,
still have
you're a
these
fighter.
kids.
You're an innate fighter.
I mean, you guys had more kids even after this, and
Right.
you're still going through this. And so to me, like your life the last many years has been a series of decisions that have resulted in I'm resorting to success, right? I'm
Right.
I'm choosing to move
Yeah.
forward in this positive way. So
I'll
in
tell
the
you, and with that,
Yeah.
not to interrupt you, babe,
Yeah.
but I will tell you that's one thing that really attracted us to you because we saw you looking pretty spry, if you want to say feeling good to be your person in
Yeah.
the sense of that, but we noticed over a short period of time, it's like, ooh, Kim, she's struggling. But yet you just kept your tone
kept
was always the
going.
same. You've always been very, very matter of fact, but at the same time, it's like, I'm okay, I got this.
Yeah.
And we love that about you.
I know that's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's a resort.
It's a decision.
Yeah, well, it's just life goes on without you regardless. It just
True.
Yeah.
keeps going, and
Yeah.
it's just you have to make that decision on a daily basis that you're going to keep going because again, life doesn't stop for you
Right.
whether you're sick, whether you want to lay in bed all day, whether whatever, it's just continues to go. So you have
Right.
to choose and get in that mindset to I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep fighting, and that I've kind of always been like that.
Right.
Well, I think your intelligence as a person also drives that because if anything, it's like you come in here this morning, it's like you have a plan for the day, you have a decision of what you're going with that. And we talk about that all the time on this podcast is that it truly is a decision. I mean, in the face of life, I mean, life and death choices.
Right.
I mean, truly in your case. So in the midst of this, because I remember kind of just hearing peripherally about what was going on. So were you still working? I mean, at
was.
what point?
I worked all the way up until I got the port. Yeah, until I
Wow.
got my dialysis port, I worked all the way up until then. I mean, I probably still could have worked a little bit with the port, but the problem with that was I stayed doing it manually, which that's how they kind of start you. You manually do it, and it's, big IV bags. And so the fluid goes in, you leave it in 4 hours, and the fluid comes out. And basically, that's your exchange of urine because once you start dialysis, your urine starts to stop and slow down. So, like, you're not producing any urine
Oh, wow.
anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I had to do that 4 times a day, every 4 hours. And the only time I really got a break is when I was asleep. But I would wake up and have to do it, go to bed and have to do it. Right.
Wow.
Whoa.
Usually,
Just to keep your body functioning.
right, to stay
Wow.
alive. And usually they put you on like this machine and it does it throughout the night. But for whatever reason, I just kept doing it manually because it worked for me.
Okay.
Well, you were willing to do it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so you were in the medical field. You were
Right.
paramedic, right? So sometimes I feel like that gives you an advantage, and sometimes I feel like that could be a disadvantage because you know too much.
Right.
So how do you feel that impacted
Both.
Yeah.
Both. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it did help me, and yes,
Scare
it
you
is
straight at
hard
the
on
same
me.
time.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely scares you because you know more,
You
and
know
when you
more.
go into it, when you have the surgery and you go into it, and I'm looking at my labs and I'm looking at this,
Yeah.
or I'm
And
I'm
you actually
looking
know
at
what
it
you're
prior.
reading.
Right,
Right.
and so when it's something funky and you bring it to the doctor's attention, or oh, we're waiting on this or we're waiting on that, I'm like, well, this lab has been like this for a few months, and I'm concerned about it, or
Right.
whatever the case, or how they do the surgery, you know what I mean? It's just,
Right.
yeah,
So you were able to advocate for yourself, though.
yeah,
See, I think
absolutely.
that's a big thing, that
Right.
understanding where you're at with this type of stuff, health wise. It's not for everybody to research and dive into things, but that advocate probably guided you. It sounds like quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The healthcare field has kind of went downhill, but I mean, you definitely have to advocate for yourself. Definitely. If you're
That's a
not,
big
there's,
thing.
yeah.
So Kim, we want to know all the details of your story, but we're gonna take a pause for a second because during our show we always do a little word association game.
We tried a little.
So before we get into the
Okay,
meat
what's
and
that?
potatoes of your story, because there's so much more for us to learn from.
Or let us in. Oh, I guess maybe not. This is meat potatoes. This is
Oh God.
sorry,
These are the dad jokes that don't
sorry.
work. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm just going to say a word, and you are going to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
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 And for anyone who is listening that maybe does not have what's going on with them, or maybe they know someone, they can kind of play along too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, plug in.
So, donor.
Christy Peterson.
That one makes my heart happy. Dialysis.
DaVita, my dialysis center.
Recovery.
Perseverance.
Hope.
God.
Recipient.
Me.
Gratitude.
Gratefulness.
Courage.
It's always fun to find a word, right?
Yeah. Hopeful.
So in this scenario, typically I don't interject, but I have to tell you that when I was putting these words together, I had to put courage on there because I feel like your journey was so courageous.
Yeah,
Like when I look
very
at
true.
you, I feel like you are courage.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, great example.
that
of
one had to be
That's
on
what
there for
actually
me.
brought you
Thank
to
you.
this for this podcast. We were talking about our sphere of people, and you were the perfect example of courage.
yeah.
Thank you.
Wellness.
Health.
Medication.
Rough.
Yeah.
Survivor.
Family.
Fatigue.
My daily life.
Yeah. Yeah. Healing.
Again, that would be Jesus.
I love asking these questions because I feel like it gives us an idea of like what you've gone through and
And it pulls forward stuff. Sometimes it's not a test.
No.
Tracy came up with this, and it was kind of funny because sometimes when we do these, it's a little giggle, and sometimes it's a lot of seriousness. And I think that seriousness at this moment is you reflecting. Because see the look on your face, you're reflecting on those moments. It's really, really impactful for us. This is something that we've really learned to appreciate is
Yeah.
when we have someone like yourself.
So, and it's fun to just take a pause before we get like super deep into this because we're about to talk about when you definitely needed a kidney transplant, and so in the midst of this, you're doing your own treatment.
Right.
It's not dialysis, right? But
It is
It is
dialysis.
dialysis, but you're
Yeah.
able to do it at home.
Right. It's
Okay.
at home dialysis.
Okay, and you're waiting on a donor.
Right. I was
Yeah.
on the transplant list for almost 5 years prior.
Oh my goodness.
Is
didn't know that.
Is it complicated? Because I guess they have to profile to fit you a
It
certain
is.
person, correct?
I mean, it is. It's all on your medical history and how you answer those questions with the doctors, whether you're forthcoming or not.
Right.
And again, like I told you guys, at 20%, that's when you go on the transplant list. So I was on the transplant list for almost 5 years prior to getting dialysis. But again, I kept myself healthy so that I
Sure.
wouldn't be
Right.
on dialysis, right? So yeah,
Because in this situation, a kidney that is starting to fail will never get better, right? It's not, there's
Correct.
not a,
It's not, there's
there-
not a healing
there's
moment to that.
nothing that will, so they know when you get to, when it starts going down, you need that.
Right.
So in the middle of this, you're on at-home dialysis and your family life still goes on. During this time frame, you guys decided to have another baby.
Yeah, I think, you know what? We ended up getting pregnant prior to me being on dialysis.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, that's a lot.
yeah,
right?
yeah, yep,
Woof.
Wow.
yeah,
And
And
so,
twins to boot, right?
right,
Yeah.
then ended up with
Oh,
twins.
golly.
right, yes,
Double the fun.
yeah,
We
yeah,
won't talk about double the work, but double the fun. And so you're now doing dialysis.
right.
Drea's pregnant.
Hmm.
And so how
Being
are
a
you
partner
dealing
in
with that? That's a lot.
A lot had changed. We were still driving Ollie to Clovis for school, back and forth.
Yeah.
But we had to change schools because of the dialysis, having to do it every 4 hours, you know. So he ended up going to school out here. Andrea was pregnant. And we just kept going on with life, you know. It
Yep,
doesn't
every
stop.
day.
Again, yeah, it just doesn't stop. So you just have to just go with the
Right.
flow. I had plenty of thoughts that maybe I might not see my babies, but you know, God had a different
God
plan,
had a
that's for
different
sure.
plan.
That's the amazing part for sure.
So in the midst of this, you and Christy had been friends,
Yeah.
neighbors.
Yeah.
Were you close?
You know, Christy was the very first person I met moving out here. We used to come out here and hang out at the Access and have lunch and watch our house being built. And Christy was always there with Domino. And we had met her
dog.
down there. Yeah. Yeah. And so we had met her down there and we were like, wow, she's a really cool person. You know, if these are how our neighbors are going to be, this is
Yeah.
going to be amazing out here. And Christy and I just always had this like click. We just clicked, you know, and we just always had that kind of, hey, what's happening,
Yeah.
friendship, just, you know, on the same level.
Yeah. No, that's we've been bragging about our community here. I think everybody has their chance if they actually look, but this community for us has been pretty amazing in terms of the sphere of people we met and who we call friends now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so obviously
How do you get
in
that
your conversation,
Okay,
right?
so
You're-
yeah. So it was never a conversation. So like I think I was on dialysis like maybe a year. I ended up getting peritonitis, which is super bad for somebody that's on peritoneal dialysis. So it's, you know, basically your infection inside your stomach body cavity.
my.
You get sepsis really quick. And I was super sick. I ended up in the hospital for probably about 15 days.
Oh my.
I came back home and I was still super sick. Like I was worse here at home than I was at the hospital. I couldn't really walk or anything for a while. It took a long time for me to recover. Rich Rodriguez from I think 47 or 26 came out and interviewed me and the family.
Yes.
A nurse friend of ours had called him and contacted him. It wasn't us, to kind of interview and find a donor for me. We had did that. And I don't know that Christy's seen it or not. She told me she didn't see it, but shortly after that, she had reached out to me and just said, hey, man, you know, how can I get tested to see if I'm a match? And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And I gave her the information. And she's like, I'm going to see, you know, you have a beautiful family. I want you to be around for them. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
what an angel. What an angel. Huh?
And
Yeah.
had you guys had the baby? Had Drea had the babies yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
we
the
did.
babies were born.
The babies
and you're
were like-
super sick.
Yeah, and I'm super sick. So the babies were like maybe one, not even one yet.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so Christy kind of reached out and she's like, I'm going to try. And I was like, okay. And I didn't really think anything of it because I had quite a few people actually try to be a donor for me. I mean, a lot. Like, I would go into UC Davis and they would say, wow, you've had a lot of people try. And I would always be like, so what's the problem? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, well, why, how come isn't coming, you know, why isn't it coming through? Well,
So what has to match? Just so everybody
well, we have to be
kinda
the
knows.
same blood type,
blood type,
right?
okay.
But
Oh,
not
okay.
necessarily because they also have this thing that's called like match. It's like a match circle or whatever. And so, say Christy did want to donate to me and she wasn't a match for me, she can donate, and whoever was her blood type would get her kidney, and whoever had my blood type that was donating also
Oh, I see.
would donate to
wow.
me, right?
Okay.
But it just so happened that Christy and I were the same blood type, and we were actually a a very good match, like close to almost like family matching. There's like
Wow.
Wow.
12 antibodies in your body that they want you to match. Her and I had 6 that matched out of 12.
Which is high.
yeah,
That's high.
yeah,
So
Wow.
the risk of rejection or things
yeah.
like that.
I had
Yeah.
0 antibodies of rejection towards her towards her kidney, and it still
Literally
stays
in your own backyard. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
What a
awesome.
blessing.
Yeah.
And so when you found out that she was a match and she was willing to do this, tell me about those emotions because you'd been on the donor list 5 years at this point.
Right, right. You know, you try not to get your hope up, to be honest with you,
Right.
you know, because I told you quite a few people had already tried and it just fell through. And that poor lady, Christy, they put her through the ringer. You know, she had to do quite a bit of physical, health physical stuff to get checked prior to that. And then she had to go down there and do a bunch of blood tests. And there was a few times, honestly, that we didn't think it was going to go through for whatever reason. I think one was she was nervous and had high blood pressure one time. And so they were iffy about that. But she just kept pushing. She was like, no, I don't have high blood pressure. Send me home with a monitor if you want. And they did do that. And I think another time, they had checked her blood sugar and it was a little high. And she's like, no, my blood sugar's not high. I promise you it's good. And they made her do a 24-hour fasting blood sugar and that came back good. I mean, there was 3-4 different
Wow.
occasions where this transplant would have stopped. But I mean, God's seen us through for sure.
Wow. And it sounds like Christy also pushed pretty
Oh, yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
She did.
Advocated.
She did.
There's that
She
word
did.
again. Right.
That's amazing.
She fought for it. Absolutely.
So you finally find out you're a match. And how long before you actually get the transplant?
So I think she started the testing like late April, and we were under the knife August 28th.
So that's quite yeah.
About 5 or so,
Yeah,
6
5,
months.
6 months. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So in the meantime, you're still doing your at-home dialysis. You're
Yeah. My dialysis actually had an issue 2 months prior. My port decided to stop working. So that was another,
oh no.
yeah,
obstacle.
fork in the
Another
road that
Jeez.
I had to constantly put heparin injections into my bags just to keep it flowing because the surgeon didn't want to do surgery to fix the port prior to transplant because if
Right.
I were to get infection, then they would stop the transplant. So I was just pushing through, laying every kind of way to get the fluid out. You know, it was rough. It was rough. We had Andrea had made me a countdown calendar, which was cool.
Oh.
Check it off every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make it next
like
day's a
a
choice. Yeah.
Advent
Keep going.
calendar.
Yeah.
You're just like so excited. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That's amazing. So through all this, were you scared? I would have been scared to death.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought I was going to die a million times, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I really, was making peace with a lot of things, but I was scared of surgery. I had never, ever been in surgery for anything in my whole life. And this was going to be a major surgery.
Yeah. Here's your entry, right?
Yeah.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was super scared. When we were there, Christy and I were crying in the waiting room, waiting to go under.
I'm sure. And are you guys in the same waiting room then?
We were, yeah, we were, and we were like I think there was one person in between us when we went back and like got dressed back and started getting IVs and stuff to go into surgery. We were kind of next to each other. Yeah.
Wow.
That I just can't even imagine the emotions. So you go through it. And I have heard that often the transplant part of the surgery is harder on the donor. Is that the case in this surgery?
Well,
or same?
no, I think Christy came out of it really well. They did laparoscopic for her.
Oh, good.
So what she had a real small incision, like maybe an inch or two. Mine, they cut me from hip to pubic area
Oh my
and
gosh.
kind of opened me up. So yeah, that was
Very
pretty
rough. Yeah. Oh my
Lots
goodness.
of bruising, lots of soreness and stuff for a while.
So what was your recovery like?
It was rough, to be honest with you. I was bruised from head to toe, hard for me to walk, hard to go to the bathroom. But I mean, from the beginning, I already felt the difference with her kidney, and like I had already started producing urine. My labs were going up. I mean, like my function started right after surgery. My function went from like, I told you 7% was when I
Right.
went in for dialysis. And the first night, I believe it was already at 32% function after putting her kidney in. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we saw the transition from that into those days beforehand, and we were even a couple months. I saw you as a person, and then literally within a week and a half seeing you, you could just see your lights. I mean, it just like we
I mean,
told
we didn't see you right after,
no,
but
but we were,
yeah.
we ran into a couple. And the thing is seeing your person change, we'll say back to normal, which was
Yeah.
a blessing. And today, like, look at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
glow
I'm
is
sure
here.
even just knowing like your psyche's different too, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you see your
absolutely.
life in front of you again.
Yeah. Yeah. Very grateful. Absolutely very grateful for a second chance. That's
Yeah.
For sure.
So what has happened since then? So obviously you had this, the recovery is how long?
It took me probably a good year to recover and feel back to normal. About a year.
And what is there medicines you have to take? How does that work?
I'm still on about 15 medications.
Oh my
a
goodness.
Really?
day. Yeah, yeah. So I take an anti-rejection medication.
Is that
that's
ongoing?
Twice a day.
Is that always
That's
ongoing?
going to be forever.
Forever.
Yeah. I take a steroid every day. Hopefully that will stop. I also take a medication that kind of puts your immune system low, lowers your immune system so that it's not doesn't fight the kidney. There's quite a few that I do take still. At this point, at a year post, I'm right where I need to be.
Good.
I got 83% kidney function.
Oh, yay.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so do you feel different?
I don't know that I feel different. I feel kind of back to normal, but I can tell there's a difference in my body. Obviously, I have her body part in my body,
Yeah.
but I do feel healthy again. But it's just different. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
I do feel healthy, but it's a different,
Well, the medicines probably do some curb
Right.
to it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
there's so.
right?
And are you still plant-based diet?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not because it's funny. When I left the hospital, their dietitian was like, you need to eat a lot of protein so it'll heal your kidney. And I was kind of thinking in my head,
This is
sound
counterintuitive.
right? Yeah, that doesn't sound right. So I did start to eat a little bit of meat. And then I had talked to my doctor and was like, hey, your dietitian told me. And she's like, which one was that? They shouldn't tell you that. Because my doctor at Davis, she does like a side job, and it's dietitian for people that are on dialysis. And she
wow.
knows that plant-based is best. And
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, I advise you to go back to plant-based. And I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. But I still kind of eat chicken and fish here and there.
Okay.
I'm not a big red meat eater. But other than that, yeah, I try to stay pretty healthy.
The moderation is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because you do need protein, and like the biggest source of protein is meat. So that I'm sure that every once in a while you fitting that
Yeah,
in.
you
but-
change it up and you do a lot of like legumes, like beans
Right.
and things
Yep,
like
yep,
that.
Yep.
Right. That's great. So what you said it's been about a year,
Yeah.
and you have not gone back to work because you're going
no.
a different direction, right?
right, yeah,
Okay, so tell us
yeah.
about that.
So I decided not to go back to paramedicine just because of the whole anti-rejection medication, the immune suppressant. It probably wouldn't be good to be on an ambulance or even in a hospital for that matter with a bunch of sick people.
Sure.
Right.
I could see
Reduce your
myself
risk.
constantly getting sick. Yeah. So I went back to school for geoengineering, and that's what I'm studying right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
How did you pick that, by the way? How do you go
Yeah.
I
from
don't know. I just
had an interest?
I did. I've always wanted to work outside.
Huh.
I've always wanted to work outside, and I was just kind of. I mean, to be blunt, I just want to nerd out and not have anybody complain or bug me. Just do my work, go back
Sure.
to the office, do what I need to do, and come home because my home life is stressful. I have kids.
Yeah,
Right.
Who wants to be at work stressing out and then coming home to stress as
Right,
well?
Right.
You know?
right.
So, and not to mention that area of work is doing it's really good right now.
Good. Well, so I have to say this, that this weekend we were texting, and you almost wanted to reschedule because you are
commitment.
studying,
I am.
and you said you want to maintain your 4.0.
I do.
And
Yeah.
so I got to tell you, going back to school when you're not in your 20s
Exactly.
and you're juggling
Right.
a family and doing all these things is hard enough. But for you to have a 4.0, Kim, you should be
Yeah,
so
congratulations.
proud of
And
yourself. Oh my
It
gosh.
goes back to being committed, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the part that
That
you.
is amazing.
You're a great example of your commitment daily of what you've done. Now this, and you know what's going to take you places. Watch this happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us how this experience has changed your life, like changed you as a person.
I would say that I am more closer to God, honestly. he played a big part in this. And
Yeah.
I think people take for granted, life in general. I mean, life goes by so fast that,
Right.
Oh,
they just, it's just takes for granted, they take it for granted. For me, I really analyze what I do now, I want to say, everything's a big deal to me because I wouldn't be here had it not been for
right.
Christy, had it not been for God. She says every day that it was God that had her donate, that, made her want to
Yeah,
donate.
she's a spiritual person,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
we've seen her and her husband take a big change in their life in the sense of their activity and their things. When we first met here, they were so enthralled in their business and their daily life. Now she's taken a very holistic position, and just to see her health has been fabulous to watch and see.
Yeah.
So post a major surgery and what she's given up physically,
Yeah.
so a balance, I think, a blessing for both.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we talked about this on our last episode, but even since my sister's death, I feel like every birthday is a gift,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? And that's what
Absolutely.
changed my life and my thinking. But I think when you have something happen that is a trauma that affects your life, which you obviously went through medically, your perspective I would think changes, right?
Oh,
Every birthday is a
100%.
gift. It
Yeah. A second
yeah,
chance. I'm like, I want to bucket list stuff now, like, hey, let's
yeah,
go to Hawaii. Hey, let's go to Mexico. Hey, let's go to,
right,
Italy. Let's do things,
see it, live it.
be the best mom, be the,
Yeah,
best partner, be the best at school,
right,
those things are a big deal to me now because I wouldn't have any of that,
right.
And so, yeah, I do take a good look at what I'm doing, and I like to give back, honestly. I spend a lot of time at church and a lot of time with my ladies, and we do a lot of ministry stuff, outreach, and
Love that.
guiding people.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
homeless, and I make my homeless bags and pass out stuff, and yeah, I just
love
try to
that.
give back, pay it forward. You know what I
Yeah,
Right.
mean?
yeah,
I love the pay it forward because you'll never sometimes you can never pay back the person that did something for you.
right.
Like what could
Right.
you ever do
Yeah,
for
the
Christy?
gift of life,
Yeah, I tell
literally.
her that all the time. That
Right.
like thank you is just never enough.
Right.
And she always tells me stop it. But her and I have a like profound bond that I
Right.
never thought. It's crazy. It's just like we're family, just automatic. Like it.
Yeah,
That's just it. She's like a long lost sister. I don't know, but we have a really profound bond, her and I.
that's awesome. That's great news.
And so did you celebrate in August your 1 year
We did.
together?
Well, I took her out to lunch, but her and I are also because she's funny and crazy, and we're talking about getting matching kidney tattoos.
I love that.
Yeah, that was her idea, and so I was like, yeah, let's do it. We were just talking about it. We had coffee the other day at the Access, so yeah, we try to
kidney
hang out
sisters?
once a week. Yeah, we
Oh,
do. We try
great.
we text each other all week long, and then we try to get together and hang out. Whether I go to her house or we hang out at the Access or go have lunch or something,
Yeah.
or even just walk the trails.
Right.
Yeah, we try to hang out a lot.
So what would you tell someone that was getting ready to go on this journey? Like what advice would you give to someone?
Just perseverance, get close with God, do a lot of prayers and meditation, and just get right within yourself, work hard, don't give up. Don't give
Advocate,
up.
fight.
Yeah, don't give up, don't give up hope. Honestly, it's what you make of it. You know what I mean? You make the outcome.
Right.
A lot of people you just keep fighting.
And let's talk about spouses.
Yeah.
So when someone is sick, a lot falls on their spouse, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so in your case, here's Drea.
Yeah.
You guys have a
Babies. And
son with special needs and now twins.
Right.
How did Drea handle all this?
Yeah,
Crazy.
She's a strong gal. She's real quiet, so she doesn't talk a lot about it. But she was with me 100% of the way. Whether we fought, were indifferent, made it work. We made it work.
Yeah.
When I had it, the surgery, I rented an Airbnb up in Sacramento, and Drea came with the twins, and my mom stayed here with Oliver. And we recruited a couple cool neighbors, Erin Rodriguez,
Yeah.
one of them, and she came and stayed with us for about 4 days. And then my other friend came and stayed another like 4 days, and they watched
To
the
help the
twins.
babies,
Yeah, Drea had to be in the hospital with me from like 10 in the morning to 4 in the p.m. That was like mandatory, because she had to learn like my medication regimen, just in case I was sick or got kooky or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Be able to read how you're
Yeah,
going.
yeah. So Drea stood by my side through the whole thing. Whether she liked it or not, I don't know. She doesn't really talk much about it, but absolutely, she 100% had my back all the way through.
Well,
She was committed.
obviously she's your wife and you guys have each other's back. But that's a big
Yeah.
when take those vows in sickness and in health. Honestly, you really don't think that that's going to
Yep,
happen.
that's
Right, absolutely.
And nor do you know what that's even going to look like
Right.
until you're in it.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, well, whether you like it or not, here we go, trudging forward, right?
right.
So I just want to give a shout out to her because I can
absolutely.
imagine that that's really hard on the spouse that's going through this with somebody who's
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah, absolutely. She's kind of like me.
babies.
She has that no quit attitude. She just keeps pushing forward, and that's why we make a good team. Is because
Yeah.
that we're both like that. We are just determined.
So tell us what's next.
What's next? Well, hopefully I'll be, finishing school here real quick. Not
How long
not
do you have?
Well, this next semester, and then I have a couple more classes I'm gonna do probably after that. But come January is when I'm gonna probably really join the job force.
Okay.
We have a big convention at Fresno State for geoengineering that I will be attending.
Good.
Lots of employers there. So I'm doing my resume right now, and my instructors are writing letters of recommendation for me.
Love that.
And so January's the big month we'll be looking.
Quick learn. What is geoengineering?
So there's a lot to it. So there's a
Right.
lot
I mean,
to
Yeah.
it.
where does
Word
it
of
fit? Does it fit
engineering.
in, obviously, an engineering company.
Yeah. So there's everywhere. Caltrans, PG&E, everybody. So there's like it's land surveying, but there's so many components to it.
Right.
You can do drone work, you can do CAD work. There's so many components to that.
Okay.
That you can just go in all different directions. Honestly, I don't know the direction I'm going to go in. I'm just going to do the general, take the licensing test, and go from there.
Get
And
prepared. Be
depending
prepared.
on depending on January, which companies are available or which companies I'm interested in or maybe get a job with, we'll see how it goes.
Love that.
Yeah.
You got
Well,
this.
I got to tell you, if anybody would be an amazing employee, it would be you. Your
what a
grit
choice,
alone
right?
and drive and
Commitment.
perseverance. 4.0. I don't
Yep.
know that I've ever had a 4.0. I hate to tell you.
Honestly, I haven't either, I don't think.
Don't you
This
love
time
those switches? I
around.
think all this stress in your life and all this change turned on switches
Yeah.
that made you even better and stronger. Which
Yeah.
is what an amazing example.
Absolutely. It makes your drive a little,
Yeah.
drive a little harder.
You live it.
And appreciate life even
Yeah.
more. And, just sitting here talking to you, you really inspire me to do better in life because it can be very short, right? And you had your life snapped in front of you and you're like, I'm going to just make it the best I can be.
Yep.
And so your story is super inspiring. I hope you know that. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you for being with us.
Is
Thanks
there
for having me.
anything you would want to leave everybody with?
Yeah, I wrote a little thing, and it just says, the most difficult lesson I've faced as an adult is the unending need to survive, regardless of how broken. It doesn't matter if I feel horrible, my heart is aching, or if I'm mourning a loss of somebody, or if I don't want to get out of bed. Life doesn't wait for me to catch my breath. It keeps moving forward, indifferent to my pain. I'm left with no choice but to push through, even when every part of me is screaming for a moment of rest. But what's even harder is that no one prepares you for this. We are met with the harsh reality that survival often means pretending you're okay and feeling great even when you're not. And maybe that's the hardest part, not just surviving, but doing so without letting the weight of it show. Yet, through it all, we find strength we never knew we had because despite this heaviness, we keep moving. And that's
I
kind of where I'm
Great. That's great.
at. Just keep moving.
Yeah, and I hope our followers listen to that statement. That's exactly why we picked this podcast name is Resorting to Success. It's not about making money. It's about making those choices. And look at what you've done and accomplished based on that. So how you can teach people that daily is who you are. It's wonderful.
Shout out to my neighbors, honestly.
Yeah.
You guys.
You're
And
welcome.
all the
What a
ones that
community.
supported and
Yeah.
owned. Honestly, this has probably been the best move for us.
Yeah.
Never in a million years would I think a neighbor would save my life.
I think the value of community
Incredible.
has been found in this one for us. I mean, I think that
Wow.
when you open your eyes and your ears and your heart to the people out there, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I think we can all take a page out of the neighbor book. I mean, maybe not everybody could go donate an organ, but you
Right.
can always be a good neighbor
Yeah.
and help someone out. So
Neighbors become friends.
I know. Wow. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks, guys.
We wish you so much luck. We can't wait to see all the great things that you keep doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.